Weekly Feed. I'm Kyle Meredith, and I've got the Black Keys. Dan, Patrick, how are you?
We're good.
It's good to see you.
Very excited.
Yeah, there's a new record. It's turned blue, and I've heard it, and it's kind of amazing. I think there is a level of, excellence that we expect from Black Keys at this point, but I didn't expect this album. This isn't the album I expected to hear. And I guess it's because the last two records have been so successful, and they're not formulaic, but you guys have found a formula that's suddenly making you guys very, very wealthy, and then to turn around and, the first track is 7 minutes long. There's some great jams on this, and I mean jams on this. What point did you say, you know what? We don't have to just write another Gold on a Ceiling this time. We can do this.
We never talk about records before we go into the studio. We just kind of go and improvise and see what happens. So we really don't know what we're going to have until we're done.
Yeah.
We had good success with our album Brothers, but really just one song, Tighten Up. The rest of the album was not commercially successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, Howlin' for You too.
Yeah. Tighten Up opened the door for us, and Howlin' for You got played. And I don't think it ever would have without Tighten Up first. And then we did El Camino, which I feel is really different from Brothers.
That was
overall
a risky
feel
album.
and sound.
Yeah.
Well, it went bigger, I guess, is how I felt about it. It felt, maybe it is for those songs like Gold on the Ceiling, and again, it could be just the perception of seeing it with the NBA and everything like that, and in hindsight, it looks bigger, and then it sounds bigger.
Yeah, we just don't even think about that stuff when we're making it. I mean,
so if there had been nothing commercial on this record, would you have shied away from releasing it then? I mean, like Fever is an extremely catchy song. Like, you've got a great single there, but I guess what I'm getting at this level, do you get to the point you're like, well, I don't know if we want to keep living the dream. We got to have that song.
I think that writing catchy songs is kind of a fun challenge.
Yeah.
We don't look at it like we got to have a hit,
right?
But we do look at it like, oh, this is kind of catchy. This is fun. Let's explore this, And that's what we did with Fever. But Weight of Love, the first song on the record, it's like 7.5 minutes. We got into a different feel, and we said, this is kind of fun. Let's explore this, And it's like, there are no rules. There's no direction that we plan on going before we start. We just do it.
Actually, and I think we probably wrote the catchiest song we've ever written. It's on this record. We just didn't want it to be the first single.
Is it the last song on the record?
Yeah.
That almost seems very strategic when you're making the track list to say, let's put the longest song first and let's put the catchiest song last.
Well, I mean,
and that's a bit demented, even. That's
it is weird.
It is weird. It's idiotic, perhaps.
No, not idiotic. Just
the record flows, in an appropriate way, I think. And that song, after like the heaviest song on the record, which is the song before it, you get the catchiest song. It's a payoff.
We do generally, like most of our records end with kind of the long downer.
Mm-hmm.
This is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Switching it around.
So but every time we make a record, we try something new.
Yeah.
And we don't just want to recreate what we did before. That just is, it's like a cop-out. It's just boring.
Right.
No. So we just want to make a good album, and we still think of it in terms of an album too. When we recorded that first song, and immediately when we recorded it, all three of us said, "That's got to be the first song."
Yeah.
We recorded more songs for this album than we had for any previous record. We did like 25 songs, and these were the 11 that worked best together for what we were kind of feeling at this point. But there's another 14 songs.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, but are those songs abandoned? Do you guys hope that they see the light of day one day?
No.
Absolutely. I think some of them are great.
Yeah.
Some just didn't make the record because they just didn't get finished in time.
Yeah.
We just needed to finish the album at a certain point.
You got to have the stuff.
So basically, like the first 11 songs that we finished, that was the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ends up being that good. That's got to say something about the
No, the other songs some of them are great.
Yeah.
I think.
Like, I don't mind saying, like, what I've heard so far, and I know I've heard at least over half the record, like, this could be my favorite Black Keys record.
Cool.
This is the most interesting. This is, it does hold your attention from front to back. For
It is the kind of record, though, that I think that the more that you listen to it, the more you kind of pick up.
Yeah.
And
The more you force yourself to sit through it. I think it's for sure it's our best record. I mean, it's definitely our most like broad kind of like spectrum of music occurring on one album to a certain degree. And you know, I mean, we could have gone in and made El Camino again, but when we went in to make El Camino, we didn't even know what we were doing, and we just toured on that record for like 2.5 years. And you know, it's also kind of weird when you start tuning into like TV and like hearing like hardware chains like ripping off your song. You're kind of like, you don't want to do that anymore. It's kind of become like, you know, hopefully like Way to Love becomes like gets ripped off for like a, you know, a taco commercial or something.
Well, I mean,
that's when you know you've succeeded. That's
in here. There's a Black Keys sound. I mean, even over all the years, you know, I mean, it's been talked about to death whether, you know, it's like, okay, you've dug up some blues and made it your own and put the blues in the future, whatever. But
we actually invented the blues.
That's awesome. But there's a Black Keys sound now that bands. There's so many emulators out there. I mean, whatever you call them, copycats, emulators, what they're doing. But
no. There's no such thing as like a copycat band. We're all influenced by the same stuff. There is such thing as like a jingle that is just totally ripping something because they don't want to pay the fee for it or whatever. That's a different thing. That's a different thing. You know, I mean, every band, if they don't admit it, they're lying. Borrows, you know. You know, because there's, I mean, straight down to the, you know, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, us, everybody. You know, like every band's borrowing something.
Sure. You both spend a lot of time producing, lots of time in the downtime producing other bands. I got to imagine though that's also kind of, I don't know if influence is the right word, but that lead to you doing anything different with this record now that you've spent all of that time kind of running the helm for other sounds and other bands?
I think that like when you work with other people, positively or negatively, it influences you and inspires you. Mm-hmm. It can either inspire you to want to make music or inspire you to not do what that person did. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can witness someone messing up and say, I see that. I'll make sure I never do that.
Right.
You know? So I think it's like, you know, it's helpful and it just keeps your wheels turning and it's good to you know, because Pat and I have been making music for like 12 years together, you know, and like it's pretty much effortless. Like we have, every once in a while we'll have a day where we just can't really get anything going, but like we could pretty much do a song or two every single day if we really wanted to, you know, easily.
Unless we discover a really interesting clip
viral
on
video.
YouTube that will derail the sessions for a good week.
I feel like that might have happened.
But you know, it's interesting to like, because we get so used to that, it's interesting to go around it. Like you see a band who can't agree on like where to eat for lunch, and like can hardly get a song together. You know what I mean? It's like an interesting thing to see, and it's helpful.
There's the inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing I've learned over the last like 7 years, starting with Brian, and then you know seeing it when I work with other bands, is just how important it is to not discredit something before you try it, you know? And it's something that, like, I think Dan and I now are, like, really good at, you know? Like, you can't deem an idea, like, bad or unworthy without trying it, you know? You just see it so often in the studio. And it's usually, like, kind of, I guess maybe it's insecurity or fear-based. Or
It's absolutely insecurity. And, I mean, it's the reason why we never had a producer. We never recorded in a studio. I mean, there were a few reasons. I mean, we were insecure, but we also didn't know how to communicate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We didn't know how to explain what we wanted the records to sound like to an engineer.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, we like when we see bands who are insecure and don't want to try things, you get it. You know, you understand. Yeah. I was there.
How do you push them through it, though? How do you?
Well, you tell them like this happened to us once too, but you have to try it, and then for me it always ends up in total frustration, and then finally getting to the point where you try it, and it works or it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But the whole thing leading up to that is just such a waste of time, and it kills the whole session for that day usually. And we've both been guilty of it, you know. And that's the thing, is like it's just something that you learn, and it's like the one thing. It's something that Brian taught me, like I don't know, when we were making Attack and Release or something. Mm-hmm. Pulled me outside and basically told me to shut my mouth. And I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right.
Probably not also not the first time, the last time in your life. That was.
I mean, I get told that a lot.
I was trying to figure out the timeline. You say Brian, I say Danger Mouse.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not on the friendly territory.
Oh, I'm not talking about Danger Mouse. I was talking about this guy named Brian.
Brian's a good guy. Was he producing the U2 record at the same time as Turn Blue? Was working with you guys?
Sort of, yeah.
Was that a dual thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was off and on. Like he'd
Yeah.
be with them for a few weeks and have a month off. And
I want to ask a question, and you can ignore it because I know it's personal. There are a lot of people that look at this record and hear the lyrics and are going to say, this is Dan's divorce record. Because it lines up like that.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a lot of truth in the lyrics on the record.
Yeah.
It was a difficult year, and yeah, I mean, the answer to that is in the lyrics. You know what I mean?
Do you mind people though when they're going to be looking over that and kind of poring over it and go like, that's your life?
Do I mind? I mean, I don't know. It felt weird to like not write about it.
Sure.
It just came out. So it was pretty much what was on my mind. So I had to kind of like, and it was helpful to it's always helpful to just kind of write things and then they're there and they're you don't have to think about them anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I guess I'm always just curious about how when an artist is writing very personal about stuff, knowing that it's going to be out there in the world and knowing that, like, that's your diary or whatever, and it's out there and people can scrutinize it and they can do their own assumptions. And
going back to like producing records, that was always something that I admired about other people that I produced that I never necessarily did myself was I like Jessica Lee Mayfield, for instance, like her songs were so personal. And they would sometimes they'd make me cringe because they were like, it was like naughty.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You're like telling these stories and I couldn't believe it. But then it's like, it's endearing. It's like the thing that makes it real to them, And I think you can be two kinds of songwriters. You can be a storyteller or you can tell your own story, And I think both are great, but both are valid, but I don't know. I just looked at it like another challenge to get over, really.
And there's a lot of personal stuff that happened this year that, you wouldn't know about. And, like, for me, this is Dan's penis enlargement album. But no one really knows about that.
I really hope that's just splattered across Wikipedia somewhere at the end of it. Was there penis enlargement album? I'll wrap it up. 2016 coming up. You guys stepped out in 08, stumping out there for politics. Is that something you ever look to do again?
All we did is raise money for Obama.
Yeah.
2008.
You're always going to raise money.
But, I mean, that's the only political thing we've ever done.
Well, right, but that was actually
Always
such a
money.
notable thing that when it happened, that it's like, oh, well, there is a big election coming up, and is that something? Because I guess it's once again, you guys are on a higher level, and now
Hey,
it's
honestly, if somebody looks to Dan or I for advice on who to vote for, they are a fucking loser. Seriously.
No, that was brought to us like this. Like, do you guys want to play a show in your hometown with Devo and Chrissy Hynde?
That's it.
And we're like, yes. And then they're like, it's for Obama. We're like, sure.
Fine.
Let's do it.
All right, easy enough, guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise that like two guys that play rock and roll and tour in a band would maybe have somewhat liberal politics.
Sure.
But I think politics is something I think it's personal decision, and like I don't judge anybody for whatever it is they want to do, and like whatever. But yeah, like Dan said, like Devo, Chrissy Hynde, and us
In Akron.
We kind of got screwed on that bill though.
We opened?
We played. Yeah, of course we opened. It's Chrissy Hynde and Devo. We opened though, and then like Chrissy Hynde had like some waitresses that she met like the night before, singer-songwriters like play like 2 sets after us. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was like.
But it wasn't the waitresses.
No, it was not.
It was not the waitresses.
It would be cool if it was the waitresses. Only thing is, the singer waitresses died about 15 years ago. So.
Great, good story. And on that
And
note,
that's how we
thanks.
end it, guys. Thank you so much. Black Keys, 2016.